So we're going to be looking a little bit today at something called interest. If you've ever had a savings account in a bank or something like that, you get paid interest for that money. So the bank will take your money. What they do with it is they loan it out to other people, and then they charge them interest. So by they're paying you to be able to loan that money out to other people. Okay, so interest you'll see when you save money, when you borrow money. So if a lot of people, when they buy a house, for example, have to take out a loan for that house or maybe a car, so they have to pay interest, meaning they have to pay a little bit extra in addition to the money that they borrowed. So we're going to look at a couple ways to calculate interest with that. So here's a problem for you. It says you save $500 at 3% annual interest. Okay, that annual interest just means every year. So once a year you get 3% of that $500. How much will you have after 5 years? Okay, and interest can be calculated different ways. Sometimes it's annually, sometimes it's semi-annually, twice a year. It could be quarterly, 4 times a year. Sometimes it could be daily. For this, we're gonna use annual interest. So once a year you get interest. All right. So there's a couple of different types of interest. There's what's called simple interest and compound interest. So we're gonna look at the differences, okay, and how you calculate those. Simple and compound. Okay. All right. So simple interest, and I'm going to use a spreadsheet here. So I've set up a simple spreadsheet here, and if you guys ever get a chance to take a class on doing spreadsheets or anything like that, it's a really useful tool to help you with finances and things like that. So so I've got a principal of $500. When we talk about principal with this stuff, principal is the amount that you're saving, or if you take out a loan, it's the amount you're borrowing, right? So I'm putting $500 into a savings account. Okay, now my interest rate is 3%. So all I'm really doing is figuring out what is 3% of 500. Now I'm going to use a formula here. So I'm going to tell my Excel program to take this amount and multiply by 0.03, right? 3%. And it'll do that calculation for me. Okay, and then my balance is simply going to be my principal. So I put $500 in. I earn $15 in interest, right? So I now have $515 in my bank. Okay. Now the way simple interest works is I always just get interest on that initial $500. So basically each year I'm going to get $15 in interest. So year 2 I will get 15, and so on. Okay. All right. So my balance then is just going to be, so like balance 2, I'd have my 515, right? Oops. Let's try that again. So it's going to be 515 plus $15. So every year that I do this, I would get $15. Okay. So again, simple interest. All I'm doing is I'm getting 3% in this case of whatever money I save. Okay. So I get my $500, 3%, that's 15. So every year I keep that money in, I get $15. Okay, so my balance each year would go up by 15, assuming I'm not putting more in or taking more out. Okay, something like a mortgage, a loan on your home is an example of simple interest. Okay, now to calculate simple interest, okay, we're going to use a formula. So that formula looks like this: I equals PRT. Okay, I is interest. So that's that extra money that you get or that you have to repay if you're borrowing. P is the principal. That's the money that you are saving or borrowing. Okay. R is your rate. And T is your time. And for this, like I said, we're going to do time in years. Okay. Other things sometimes calculated differently, but for our sake, we're going to use time in years. Okay. So all my formula says to do is to get my interest, calculate my principal times my rate times my time. So let's look at our example. So in my previous example, I was saving $500. So 500. Okay, my rate. Now I want to make sure I put my rate as a decimal. I can't put 3. 3 would be 300%. So I want to put 0.03. And my time was 5 years. Okay. And then if I solve all that, that's going to give me my answer there. Again, you guys can use, if you need to use a calculator or whatever to help you out, that's fine. But we just want to multiply that out to get our answer of 75. Okay. So my interest is $75. Okay, and my balance, and for some reason, we use A for balance. I'm not sure why they don't use B, but you'll see in the next formula where we have balance in the formula. A stands for balance. So balance is just the total amount of money you have. I would have 575, right? I've got my $500 I saved and my $75 that I earned in interest. Okay. Now, the nice thing with the simple interest formulas is it's really easy then to kind of figure some other things out. Let me erase a little bit here. For example, let's say that I have my same $500 at 3%, but let's say I need to get at least $700. Okay, which means I need to earn $200 in interest, right? $500 plus 200 more. So I can use this formula to help me figure out some different things. Okay, so let's say that this time I needed $200 in interest. My principal is $500. Okay, I still wanted 5 years, but I don't know. I'm trying to find a better rate. I'm trying to figure out what rate do I need to find in order to get that $200. Okay, so same principle, same time. This time I want $200 in interest, not just 75. So I need to figure out what rate do I need to get. Okay, so again, I set that up. Just take out your variables, put in your numbers. Right, so my $500 is my principal. My time is 5 years. I don't know my rate, so I'm going to keep it as R. Right, and we know with multiplication we can change the order. So I'm going to rewrite this as 500 times 5 times R. Okay, and then simplify that. So if I multiply that together, that's 2500 R. And then we just have a one-step equation, right? So I'm just going to divide both sides by 2500, right? And we're going to get a rate, which means we're more than likely going to get a decimal less than 1. You don't see a lot of interest rates that are above 100%. So again, use your calculator if you need to. 200 divided by 2500 would get us 0.08. Okay, so our rate then would have to be 8%. So if I needed $200 in interest in 5 years, I'd have to get an 8% interest there, or interest rate. Okay, and you could do that to find the time. You could do that to find the principal that you would need, different things. So again, just plug in the numbers that you know. Make sure you put them where the formula tells you to put them, and then just solve for the missing one. Okay, just solve for the missing one. So that is simple interest. So with compound interest, okay, what happens is you get interest on your new amount. So let me change the wording. I'll just call this amount here. So I have $500. Again, I'm still getting 3%. So I'm going to tell my program here to do 0.03 times this amount. Okay, so my balance would be those two things added together. So at the end of the first year, I would have, add those together, I'd have $515. Okay. All right, so I start the next year with 515. Okay, now if I do 3% of that, what you'll notice is, okay, it's now a little bit more. So instead of $15 each year, I'm now getting, in this case, 3% of that. So I've got an extra 45 cents. Okay, and then if I add those together, my new balance would be 530. All right, now if I have my program again, this is a nice thing about Excel is you can drag those formulas. Okay, and it didn't round it for me, but that's not a huge deal in this. So what you'll notice is each year, if you look at the interest, right, with simple interest, it was just each year was $15. We just add $15 onto the total. With compound interest, okay, that amount goes up each year, right? So 1545, 1591, 1639, 1688, okay? So it's giving you interest on the new amount. And you'll notice at the end, I end up with $579.60, if I rounded that 64 cents, whereas this one's $575. So I'm actually getting another $4.64 there. Okay, so again, compound interest, you get the interest off of the new amount. Simple interest, it's just that interest off the initial balance, so it's going to be the same each year. Okay. Now, to calculate it, our formula is going to be like this. So it's going to be our balance. Again, A stands for balance. I'm not sure why they use A again, but that's what the formula is. So, and then it's your principal times 1 plus your rate raised to the t power. Okay. So again, if let's say my principal, let's use the same problem, was $500 in this. Okay. 1 plus our rate, 0.03. Okay, raised to the t power. Okay, and again, you want to plug that into a calculator. If you don't have a scientific calculator, make sure you follow your order of operations, do your parentheses, then your exponent, then multiply. If you have a scientific calculator, just use your parentheses button and put it all in at once, I think is the easiest way to do it. Okay, raised to the, oops, our time was 5. I should have had a 5 there, my mistake. Here we go. Erase that here quick. Okay. So again, I'd recommend get a scientific calculator, punch that all in at once. Okay, and then you'll get your amount of $579.64. Okay. So again, a little bit more with compound interest than you would annually be, or simple interest, because you're getting that interest from your new balance. Okay. Now I'm not going to have you guys with this find any of the T or the R. That's a little bit more advanced with that. So with this formula, we're just going to worry about finding the balance. You know, I could ask you how much interest did you earn, right? And then I would have to subtract the 500 out of there, right, to see that we got 79.64. Okay, but it gets a little bit trickier with this if I ask, you know, I'm trying to solve for T or solve for R. So with this formula, we're just going to worry about the balance. The previous formula, there's no exponents involved, so it's a little bit easier to find those other ones. But again, those are your two formulas. So you've got your compound interest formula there. A equals P 1 plus R to the T power. Okay, and then we've got our simple interest formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. Okay, again, that's simple. This one's compound. Okay, so use those formulas to help you out. Most of the time, the issues that happen on this with the students is that R, you got to remember to use that in decimal form. Okay, always look and see if your answer makes sense. You're not gonna invest $500 and get get $3,000 in interest in 5 years. Okay, make sure your answer is reasonable to that. But again, just follow the formulas, plug your numbers in where they tell you to, and then solve for that missing one. All right, simple and compound interest.